how you look at it, right? Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. He was proclaiming that he was the Messiah, their long-awaited Messiah. He also knew that Passover was coming. This is why he proclaimed to be the Messiah here. What was Jesus doing? The crowd, because there's one problem here. The crowd, we see this and we're like, oh, that's so awesome. The crowd was right behind Jesus and they're worshiping him, saying, blessed King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And they're taking their clothes and putting them on the road so Jesus can walk over him. And they're saying, you're the King, you're it, Jesus. You are the man, right? You're going to save us. But what do they have going on in their mind, right? They have going on in their mind, what they're perceiving, what they're seeing is something completely different from what Jesus is doing and what he knows he's doing. The people are looking for a political Messiah. They're looking for the king, their Messiah, to free them from Roman oppression. Because during this time, the Roman Empire was ruling over the nation of Israel, and they were sick of it. They were abusive, they took all their money, and they were like, okay, Jesus is it. He's going to come, he's going to knock all the Romans out, we're going to finally have our kingdom back. He's going to set up our nation. This is it. This is what it's going to happen. Come on, let's come down and worship him, because he's going to be the one to set up his kingdom. And we want to be on his good side, right? When he does this. But what was Jesus doing? Jesus was proclaiming he was the king and the Messiah, but he was proclaiming to be the Messiah for purely different reasons. And he was coming to proclaim salvation for their sins. He was to be the lamb that was to be killed to save them. That was Jesus' mission. That's why he was going to Jerusalem. The people saw this as completely different. Completely different. And then we have the cult. We got several different characters going on in this event. We've got Jesus, we've got the cult owners, we've got his disciples. We've got the crowd that are proclaiming Hosanna for purely the wrong reasons. And then we got the downers, right? These are the people, you know these people, they're the ones at the family barbecue, the party, where they're like, yeah, it's nice weather now, but I don't know, they're calling for rain, you know, or man, I hope we don't run out of food. You know, they're the ones that are always putting a damper on things, or kind of dampening the mood. There's always at least one person, and some of us are smiling because we know that's true. We can even picture someone in our mind that we know is always that person at our family barbecues or parties or whatnot. And in the same way, there's the downers at this party, right? Everyone's going crazy for Jesus. But there's the downers here too, the Pharisees. Verse 39. Some of the Pharisees called to him from the crowd, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." And we look at that and we're like, okay, well, we can, at first glance, we look at that and we're like, okay, the Pharisees, they might be onto something here. Maybe they think that the crowd is worshiping Jesus for the wrong reasons. You know, rebuke your disciples. They don't know what they're doing. We look at that first glance and we're like, oh, maybe the Pharisees are kind of on Jesus' side this time. But what was the Pharisees' entire mission? The entire time Jesus was doing his ministry, they were trying to discredit him. They wanted to kill him, and they wanted to show him to be basically a clown in front of everybody, that he wasn't anything. And so, if we look at that a little bit closely, they're not saying, you know, Jesus, your disciples are a little over exuberant about the wrong things. They're saying, Jesus, you're not really doing anything. Stop kidding yourself. Stop kidding everybody else. You're not real. You're not who you say you are. So stop, just for the sake of everyone, just knock it off. Just stop. You're not real. You're not who you say you are. Stop the charade. They were looking to discredit Jesus and to reject him. And later on we see that the crowd rejects Jesus as well. I mean, we know, back here, they didn't know the end of the story. We can look back on this and we know what's going to happen next. We know that these same people that were so crazy for Jesus, so wanting him to be the king of their lives, of their lands, once they realize that Jesus isn't going to do what they want him to do, once they realize that he isn't going to fulfill their expectations, they do what? They kill him. They hand him over to be crucified. Because he's not doing what they want him to be doing. He's not doing what they think he should be doing. And then we got a last character here. Well, who's the last character? Okay, what are you talking about? Last character? We already did the Pharisees. In verse 40 here, the last verse that we're looking for here, we're looking at here. He answered and said to them, I tell you that if these should keep silent, the what? Stones, the rocks, would immediately cry out. Someone's going to worship me, Jesus is saying. If these people aren't worshiping me, even if it's for the wrong reasons, if these people aren't worshiping me, if you're not going to worship me, someone's going to worship me. How humiliating is that? If human beings, God's crowning creation, is being kind of put on the back burner, and the rocks are worshiping God. Because we don't want to, we don't think we need to, we're too tired, you know. That's pretty humiliating, right? That Jesus is saying, listen, someone's going to worship me. If you won't, I'm going to get these rocks to worship me. Immediately, they'll worship me. And so we have these different characters here. So we look at this story and we say, what does this have to do with me? I know that Jesus is the Messiah. I know that he didn't come to abolish the Roman Empire. I know he came to die for my sins. I know this. If we look more closely, we look at what's behind these different characters here. We've got three different characters here. Pharisees, crowd, and the rocks. The Pharisees. There's some of us who say, right off the bat, Jesus is nothing. He's a good man, he said a few good things, but he was a victim, and he's not the Son of God. He was just some dude walking around in sandals, talking about God, talking about good things, how he should live, but the Roman Empire got better of him, and they killed him to keep him silent. And that's it. That's Jesus. That's Jesus in a nutshell. Some of us who think that Jesus is not the Son of God, that he was just simply a man, or he didn't exist at all. Some people do actually think that Jesus didn't exist at all. Those are the Pharisees. We think of ourselves, I'm not done. I know Jesus is who he says he is. I know Jesus is the Messiah. But sometimes we look at what's going on around us, and we conclude from what we see that God is not doing anything, or God is doing something that we don't want him to be doing. And that we can liken to the crowd. That we conclude from what we see, or what we think should happen that's not happening, and we say, well, God doesn't care. God's not doing anything. God's got bigger things to worry about. And that's the crowd. Or they're the rocks. Let me ask you a question. Do rocks have eyes? No. Do rocks have arms? Hands, feet? Do they have any senses whatsoever? No. But they do know that God exists and that he is God, that he is king of the universe, and that he is working. I think that's what Jesus is encompassing in this statement here. He's saying rocks can't see anything, they can't touch anything, they can't smell anything, but they know that I am king and I'm doing something. And so that's an inspiration to us that even if we don't see anything, just as rocks, even if we don't think that God is doing what we think he should be doing, we should still what? Worship him anyway. Immediately. Right? Immediately.